let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a specific source. It's a review of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, written by Fraser Gray, published July 12th, 2023.
And our mission, I guess, for this deep dive is, well, not just to summarize it, we really want to pull out the key insights, understand why Fraser Gray highlighted certain things,
Right.
get his perspective on the seventh installment of this huge franchise.
Exactly. And the context he gives right at the start is pretty important, I think. He's writing this basically right after Tom Cruise had that massive hit with Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, huge.
And of course, Dead Reckoning Part 1, it's the 7th movie in a series that's been going for, nearly 30 years now?
That context really sets the stage, doesn't it, for some pretty high expectations. Gray specifically says the last 3 Mission Impossible films had all set the bar higher. That's quite a claim about where the franchise has been heading recently. And then you add seeing the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Especially, that bike jump. He admits it left him gagging for more. Like he was expecting the biggest MI yet.
Yeah.
So that anticipation level, it's key to understanding his whole take.
Right. That anticipation isn't just like general buzz. It's built on specific things that happened recently. When Gray says Cruise is in top form, how much of that do you think is sort of a direct echo from Maverick, where everyone was talking about Cruise's commitment to practical stuff?
I think it's pretty significant, yeah. Coming off Maverick, that image of Cruise pushing the physical limits was really reinforced, wasn't it?
Totally.
So when Gray says top form, it probably means that peak level of performance and, daredevilry that Maverick just highlighted made people even more hyped for his next big action role.
And that point about the last 3 Mission Impossible films getting better each time, what does that suggest about his expectations going into this one? It's not just hoping it's decent, it's like expecting it to actually top the others.
It implies he trusts where the franchise has been going creatively, its ability to just keep escalating the spectacle. It kind of builds this idea that MI films aren't just reliable, they're actively improving, film after film.
Okay.
And that expectation of escalation, it ties right back to the impact of that trailer stunt.
The one Gray says had him gagging for more. That single image, the bike jump. It sounds like it perfectly captured the kind of scale and commitment he was really hoping to see, not just slick marketing.
Exactly. It genuinely set the stage. So, diving into the film itself, Gray tells us the main plot is the team tracking down a mysterious set of keys.
The classic MacGuffin, right? That thing everyone's chasing that pushes the story along.
Pretty much.
But you mentioned the villain. That's where it gets really interesting, you said.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Gray identifies the antagonist as an AI called the Entity, and he calls it more futuristic yet incredibly relevant, which, that feels spot on with everything going on with AI right now.
Right.
What makes that description kind of insightful for, like, a spy thriller context?
Well, it definitely brings the threat into our modern digital world, moves beyond the usual Cold War spies or whatever. But Gray adds this fascinating layer. The Entity develops a mind of its own and becomes unhinged. So it's not just super smart or logical, it's also unpredictable.
And crucially, he notes it's 3 steps ahead of Ethan Hunt and the team.
Okay.
That combination, like perfectly intelligent, always ahead, but also unstable. It creates a really unique kind of tension, doesn't it? It's a threat you can't just outthink logically.
Totally. And Gray really emphasizes the stakes this creates. He felt like it was proving none of your favorite characters are safe anymore. That specific wording, linking the AI's nature directly to how vulnerable the characters feel, it tells you how well the reviewer thought the film sold the danger.
And where does this chase for the keys actually take them? Gray mentions the usual globetrotting. He lists exotic locations like Rome, Siberia, and the Alps.
Standard stuff for MI, yeah. But Gray points out the film's creativity and how it throws the heroes into thrilling situations in those places. He calls out some specific action highlights.
Yes, he talks about car chases through historic landmarks, which is always a big visual and logistical feat for these movies.
And then there's that detail he seemed really interested in. A game of cat and mouse in Birmingham New Street, dressed up as Abu Dhabi Airport.
Right.
Calling out the location doubling like that, what does that specific observation tell us about how Gray sees the film's action?
Well, I think it highlights his appreciation for the practical craft involved.
What?
Instead of just going full CGI, they figured out how to use a real place, even disguise, to build a convincing scene.
Okay.
It kind of points to the film's commitment to practical effects and clever staging, even for big sequences.
That makes sense. It sort of grounds the spectacle in something tangible, even when it's supposed to be an international airport. And the last big sequence Gray mentions is an exhilarating finale on a speeding train. Sounds like a classic action climax, but with that modern high-stakes MI feel.
Definitely sounds like it. Okay, shifting gears a little. Gray also talks about the film's structure and pacing. He notes a slow build-up in its first act.
For a franchise known for hitting the ground running, that might be a surprise for some people.
Maybe.
But Gray feels that once it gets going, the pacing significantly improves. He thinks that initial slower pace actually serves a purpose.
Right, he connects it to the movie's pretty long running time, 163 minutes.
Wow, yeah.
He suggests that length allows the ambitious plot room to breathe. Kind of implies the story's complexity, maybe dealing with the whole AI threat, just needed that setup time. And for him, it paid off.
And obviously, this is just part one. Gray sees the ending not just as a cliffhanger, but as a satisfying conclusion to the first half of the Dead Reckoning story. That's an important difference, isn't it, from managing expectations with a two-parter?
Absolutely. Sets up part two without feeling totally incomplete. Now, while Gray is, overwhelmingly positive, he does call out what he terms a major downside, worth digging into that criticism.
Yes, he flags some of the visual effects during the final act. He felt they were clearly a little rushed and detract from some of the spectacle and awe. So while the practical stuff like the chases or the airport scene impressed him, the digital effects didn't quite hit the mark for him sometimes.
He even speculates this might be a common problem with major Hollywood blockbusters rushing to hit release dates. It's quite an insightful comment on the pressures of making these huge movies, suggesting the VFX issue might just be a symptom of that whole system.
But he pivots back pretty quickly, doesn't he? Stressing it was a minor takeaway from an otherwise sensational viewing experience.
Exactly.
So noticeable for him, but definitely didn't ruin the overall film.
Seems that way. Okay, let's talk about the man himself, the anchor of the franchise, Tom Cruise. Gray dedicates some time to his performance and, well, obviously, the stunts.
The line that really leaps out from the review is that Cruise is aging like a fine wine, getting better with age. How does that phrase kind of sum up Gray's view of Cruise's role here?
Well, it speaks volumes about his longevity,
right?
And the idea that his physical performances are actually improving. Gray seems genuinely, blown away at times. He notes it's hard to believe at times watching this that it really is him doing the stunt work here.
Wow.
That sense of disbelief really underlines how effective Cruise's commitment to doing it for real still is.
His daredevil attitude is on full display, Gray writes. It sounds like for Gray, Cruise isn't just acting or doing stunts, he's embodying the whole spirit of mission. Impossible.
Absolutely. And Gray's final word on Cruise is pretty telling. He doesn't disappoint and somehow manages to bring together everything great this franchise has achieved in the last 27 years.
That's incredibly high praise. It suggests Cruise isn't just the star. He is what makes the series work, at least according to this reviewer.
Yeah, a living embodiment of it.
So pulling it all together, Fraser Gray's overall verdict seems pretty clear. Dead Reckoning Part 1 stands out as one of the best installments in the long-running franchise.
He feels the high-octane action leaves a lasting impact, confirming that, the film delivered on the spectacle promised by the trailer and the franchise's whole reputation.
And for him, crucially, the film did its job. It was whetting my appetite for Part 2 next year. That's a strong endorsement, really builds anticipation.
It definitely sounds like it achieved its goal as Part 1.
So what have we really distilled from this specific review by Fraser Gray? We've seen his perspective on that high anticipation, built from recent successes and that trailer moment. We've unpacked his take on the unique AI villain, the entity described as super intelligent but also dangerously unpredictable.
Yeah, that combination.
We looked at the specific action sequences he liked, noting his appreciation for clever staging, like the Birmingham as Abu Dhabi thing.
Right, the practical side.
And we heard his view on the pacing, that minor VFX critique, and his significant praise for Tom Cruise's incredibly central and physically demanding performance.
It's a review that really emphasizes that blend, doesn't it? Futuristic threat meets practical, globe-trotting action, all held together by a star who's seen as being at the absolute peak of his powers. Based on this deep dive into Gray's review, then, what elements of his perspective on Dead Reckoning Part 1 resonate most with you? Or maybe differ from what you might have expected?
And thinking about that villain, Gray highlights the entity as an AI that's both three steps ahead, implying this massive capability, perfect logic perhaps, and unhinged, suggesting instability, unpredictability. What does that specific combination, that blend of perfect intelligence and fundamental irrationality, what does that suggest about the new kinds of adversaries Ethan Hunt and his team might face going forward, especially in a world that's grappling more and more with advanced AI?